Welcome to Let's Talk Curation, a series in partnership with GDB. If you haven't checked out our previous videos, I'm talking all things curation. Again, thanks to the GDB team for providing some of this content and working closely with me. I am your host, Ellen Parker, and this is a snackable version of a lesson just so that you can understand the misconception, the misalignment that can come with running a curated audience. Okay, so there's 4 of them that I'm going to be covering in the next few minutes. Here's the first one. First one is expecting it to have immediate results. Like, really? Yes, it is a curated audience. You have worked with this partner to make it happen. You have created this audience based on the criteria you shared with them, but it should still need time to perform. There's a few things you always have to remember is that even if you give all the details to the curated team, right? The data partner. Let's say in this example, you're running a campaign in MediaMath, targeting people that want to buy the latest Toyota, whatever it is. There's a household income restriction. There's a location restriction. There's a radius, right? And then you know that these people have been shopping around in the last 2 to 3 months. Okay, boom. And so you give all those details to the GDB team. They come out with a banging curated audience. You set it up as a deal ID. You set it up in their ad group by itself in MediaMath, and boom, you start running. But you don't see anything fantastic. No CPA, right? Like test drive or schedule a test drive of this Toyota form field or happening in this audiences. Sis, my brother, it's day 1. Like day 2, let it run. There's a reason why we're asking for a minimum time to run. It's because it has to ramp up. That's one. Number 2 is comparing curated audience with okay, so there's different things that can affect the performance on anything, especially with a curated audience. One is the setup, which is misalignment number 2 here. But in this question, is like performance may happen on day 1, it may not happen on day 1. You still should let it run. But just because we're asking you to run it for like the 3-4 weeks, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't optimize as well, okay? So that's the biggest misconception, is just because it's customized to that, curated to that audience that you're trying to target, it doesn't mean you shouldn't expect immediate results, okay? Open exchange or PMP audiences, you just can't, y'all. It's like booking a flight on, dang, I don't want to throw nobody in the shade. Booking a flight on a airline company that is maybe not the best and expecting them to give you private jet experience. It's just, you can't compare it, right? Like there's a reason why it's different. It's set up in different ad groups. If you didn't, you should. It's because it just performs differently. Okay. So you should not compare your curated audience results with your open exchange results and with your PMP results if you're running PMP, or even if you're running a contextual, advanced contextual ad group, you name it, especially not down to that CPM. You should not compare the CPMs. Yes, the client sometimes is very CPM focused, yes, but sometimes the CPMs don't tell us the full story, if not every time. So it's a big mistake to just focus on CPM to determine that your curated audience is working or it's performing less better than your open exchange or your PMPs. That's not the way to go. Okay. It's just different type of audience, is mechanically built differently. It's measured differently. It's brought together and packaged differently. So it should not be graded the same. Now you can come back and say, well, those are the metrics and the KPIs that I'm using to optimize all of them. Great. But the CPM should be different. If CPM is your key KPI, your key metric here, then you should not have the same CPM on all of them. It should be a little bit different. Okay. Third misconception is treating curation as a shortcut instead of a strategy. This means that, I have set up this curation to, again, going back to my example, to target in market for the BMW and excluding Mercedes lovers and whatever it is. And GDB has sent me the deal ID. So now everything is going to be great. It's all going to perform. Boom, magic is going to happen. I'm going to get a promotion and go buy an island. No, that's not how to do it. Again, it's part of your strategy. It should not be a shortcut into this result. It's adding this into the main strategy, testing again against other tactic, and then giving it time to optimize such as any other ad group, honestly, in my opinion, and then making sure that you're making the proper changes based on this audience. Okay. So it shouldn't be just a shortcut. You're like, I think it's going to be a quick fix. No, it's still going to need time to perform. It's still going to need time for you to optimize it. So don't use curated audiences just as this one strategy. Add it as a supplement, as a complement into something that you're running into that strategy. Okay. And if I can add, if you can have specific messaging into creative message for that created audience, that's even better. It's not always a requirement, but if that's something you can do, then why not, right? Be as specific as possible. Or I don't even know how to name this mistake, right? This last one, because it's definitely misalignment on how we're handling our partnership with the curator, with the creation partner. What I mean by that is that we give our partners, and sometimes it doesn't stop with a curated audience partner like a GDB, it stops with every vendor. It's like we only like to give them a little bit of the information and let them guess. And when they don't perform, we just stop the partnership. That's not the way to go. What I'm asking you, and the mistake is not being fully transparent and not seeing this partner as your true partner. Okay, an extension of your own team by not giving them the full information. It's so important, y'all. You got to give them everything. Like, let them know this is the full budget. You're not going to get all this budget. Don't get too excited. But we would like to test this. Or we have other partners testing on this as well. They're going to do this. What can you do better or add that they cannot? Boom. Give them all the information. And sometimes it comes down to something as simple as the campaign strategy details, like the targeting, the everything, right? But here's another misalignment that goes hand in hand with that is that the team, the GDB, like let's say GDB, usually sends you the deal. They work in all DSP. They work on the North America, US market, and globally. They have, they've worked even with, anyway, they are global. And what they say is that when they onboard a new client, they let them know, here's the best way to set up in this deal into your DSP. If you're using MediaMath, here's how to set it up, literally. And so what I would recommend is that when you set up this new deal or this new curated audience, you've heard me say it in previous videos, make sure it's in its individual ad group or line item or strategy. You cannot mix GDB audience with experience audience, with a contextual audience, with a universal exclusion list. Like, you can't just do that. Here's what I recommend. And this is going to feel very unnatural for us traders because we don't like to do this a lot. But this is how it's performed really well for some of my clients. Set up an ad group, an individual line item, a strategy only with that curated audience. Okay. Now, let me see. If they are sending somewhat, I'm asking you to send an in-market audience for the Toyota buyers. And then GDB is like, you know what? Here's an in-market audience for Toyota buyers based on the criteria you shared with me. But here's a couple too that are targeting buyers that maybe buy, I don't know, Mazda, that also buy Toyota, or competitors of the brand that also are buyers of Toyota. Anyway, this is just an example. This video is not sponsored by Toyota, but if it wants to be, it can be. Okay, holla at me. So back to our example. So maybe GDB will be like, you know what? You can add those 3 deals within one ad group. Boom, it's fine. You can still see the performance per each based on the reporting, but also based on the DSP. Okay, so like with a DSP like MediaMath, yes, you can combine some of that. But for other DSP, you might even want to turn those into 3 different ad group instead of 1. Okay. So here's the side notes. So how you're setting it up individually for that one deal. If you want to be cost efficient, then you let GDB know you have not set up any, let's say, brand safety partners within this particular ad group. Add your own. GDB is going to be like, ours is already on. Our viewability metric starts at this. The attention metrics is at this. Like, you're good to go. We already have a brand safety, layer and filter added into this audience. Boom. What does it do for you? Why? Why do you do this? Like, now you don't have to spend an extra 20 to 30 to 40 cents to that dollar on brand safety filters that saves you that 20 cents cents, that 30 cents, that 40 cents now. Okay. So this is something you can also do. Okay. And it sometimes can become a big mistake, especially when you have too much of those filters added within the ad group. And now the curated audience just have so many things is not performing the best. So have the GDB team, have your partners add those brand safety on their end, lift it up from your end and just monitor. Okay. So that's a couple things too. And then another thing I would say is that in the previous video, answering the test budget, in one of the previous video, I suggested if you've never ran with this client, allowing the platform to allocate the budget based on the KPI. You can start there. Best practices after though is to eventually allocate budget on their own for this particular ad group, especially with the curated deal. Especially if you think about the CPM dynamics within the platform, curated audience deals their CPM is going to be higher than an open exchange. We can all agree that's the truth, right? But it doesn't mean that it's underperforming per se, okay? I actually think that it can be more cost efficient, even if the CPM is higher, because now you're not wasting spend on things that are just not working, on the cheap stuff, okay? So that's all for misconception and misalignment when it comes to created deals. Again, as a recap, the first one was expecting that things are going to be beautiful, magical on day one. It's not how we play. 2 is comparing the curated audiences with open exchange, or PMP, especially if you're only using CPMs to perform, to compare. The third thing is using curation or those curated deals as a shortcut instead of adding it into a full strategy. Okay. It should be part of that strategy. It should be supplementing whatever is not working or what you're missing elsewhere. And the last thing was not setting up the curated deal the way it should be, which is individually in their own respective ad group with no others. I give the example not to add an open exchange, OpenX, and like an Experian, and then the GDB audience all into one. You should definitely separate it. Another, like a sub mistake within that fourth mistake or misalignment is to maybe not as many filters or targeting restriction when you run a created audience, because it's a specific audience customized for your strategy based on what you've given them. And therefore, they are going to add those filters. It's more cost efficient for you. It takes you less time. The reporting is much cleaner. Anyway, so those are the 4. And then I gave you a bonus one, which was communication back to those partners. My name is Ellen Parker. I just went over the 4.5 most common mistakes or misalignment when it comes to running curated audiences. Make sure you check out the other videos. We're going to do this twice a week in partnership with GDB. Have a great one.